It's absolutely a pleasure today to have the opportunity to talk to the TriMet Portland area Innovation Challenge team. You are our last Innovation Challenge team competitors for our inaugural run, and everybody is just as excited and pumped as we were when we started yesterday morning. So it's just really a great pleasure. I want to start out as well by thanking the leadership of TriMet, your CEO and General Manager, Sam DeJesus, and of course, Angela Brown. She has been our program advisory coordinator from TriMet and has just been unbelievable. And I also want to do a shout out, and I know there are others, WTS in the area has been very helpful, but also a very close working relationship with a very important partner for us at I Amalgamated Transit Union. So it's just really been a really robust, effort. And so thank you for that. Now, here's the fun part, open and go. Okay. And so the theme that your innovation is around is open and go. And that is an app that is the app that meets all your transportation needs. So the theme here was really the TriMet team has recommended utilization of the smartphones, okay? A new official TriMet application with real-time planning and rider update capabilities to create an easy, seamless, and familiar way for people to be able to really readily access transportation services. And really, it's for everybody, but with a real intentionality around finding ways to really encourage young people to consider and utilize public transportation, particularly in the wake of the pandemic, as not a system of last resort, but one of first choice. Okay. And so part of that, by the connection with the smartphone and all of that, is digital natives, okay, for which this is really something that absolutely resonates. So we're looking forward to hearing you your team talk about open and go. And that gives me a pleasure to introduce that team. Louis, we're going to start out with Lucas Mercer. Lucas comes to TriMet via Chicago, the Windy City. He has driving experience in various forms of transportation, including in his current role as a bus operator at TriMet. And so since I think June 2022, and he has aspirations of moving into promotional opportunities and transportation operations. And Lucas, we're absolutely pleased that you've been able to join us here today. Then I'm going to move to Eleanor Behe. Eleanor graduated from Portland State University in 2021 with a bachelor's degree in business management. She currently works at TriMet as a senior recruiting specialist. She lives in downtown Portland, where she relies on TriMet for all of her transportation needs. And she can often be found using light rail to transport large loads of books and plants, okay? So Eleanor, thank you so much, and we're thrilled to have you here today as well. And then Samantha Glazer, okay, and late last year, Samantha began her role in transit as an administrative assistant with TriMet. Prior to this, I think she worked as an office manager at a dental office in downtown Portland. Samantha has been a frequent transit user since she first became really acquainted with TriMet, and is looking forward to her future development at TriMet. And then there are going to be a couple of other members, I think, that are going to be joining the team. They're here. Okay. Well, that's Belle Lemoyne. Okay. Belle graduated from Cal Poly in 2015 with a bachelor's in business, concentrating in human resources management. Since then, she has worked in the nonprofit sector and in human resources. And she's currently a compensation analyst at TriMet, where she has worked for the past year and a half. Belle has been a TriMet rider since high school, and she continues to rely on public transportation to commute to and from work. Outside of work, Belle enjoys embracing various modes of transportation, including roller skating, walking, and biking. And then, Belle, thank you for joining us. And then I believe there's a fifth member that's on, and that's Marilyn Weaver. Marilyn graduated from Washington State University in 2021 with a bachelor's degree in human resources. She's been in the human resources field now for 4 years and is currently an HR generalist for TriMet. And prior to her TriMet experience, she had never used public transportation. Okay, but since then she has realized it's absolutely perfect getting to and from, for her to use it to get to and from all the concerts and the sporting events and everything that she really enjoys going to in her free time. So with that, it's a pleasure to have the TriMet team. And we will now move forward with your 3-minute compelling introduction.
Hi, I'm Bella Moyne, and I'm a frequent TriMet user. I find myself having to get creative with carless trip planning. This includes using my own knowledge of the city, as well as various third-party apps. TriMet's trip planning website only gives me 3 route options and doesn't give me enough customization for my preferences or remember which routes I like to take. With Open and Go, the app will allow for more detailed route customization, leading to routes that actually suit your needs. In addition, we're going to use tap-on, tap-off technology to track popular routes so that TriMet can improve trip planning suggestions and service improvements.
Hi, my name is Marilyn Weaver, and my problem with the transit system is the safety concerns that come with it. Have you ever felt unsafe while alone at a bus stop, uncomfortable in a ride share, or witnessed an upset customer on a bus? With our app, Open and Go, we have implemented an incident reporting system that tracks prior incidents and the location of those incidents. So that way, you are able to see which areas and routes have reoccurring safety issues.
Hello, my name is Eleanor Beakey and I live in downtown Portland. I also work at TriMet. Living downtown, I don't have a car, and so I rely on TriMet for all of my transportation needs. Which is usually fine being downtown, but anytime I have to go anywhere that's out of the city or a little bit farther away, it means that I have to coordinate a tricky mix of transfers and different types of transit. And so I've got my ride queued up here on our transit tracker, and I've got an 80-minute commute with 10 minutes of walking on either end and a 17-minute transfer in the middle where I'll have to be waiting at a stop on the side of the road. And we need an app that makes this easier to organize and that also syncs up with Uber, because at this point I'd rather just pay for an Uber and have a quicker trip. So we need an app that makes this a lot more easy and convenient.
Hi, I'm Samantha Glazier, and with a busy and demanding job coupled with a long commute, I need ease and simplicity wherever I can find it in my life. TriMet's trip planner on their website is not formatted for mobile use, and with multiple transfers needed during my commute, I find myself juggling multiple apps and struggling to find the best option. With Open and Go, we will be introducing a single platform for trip planning and tracking and payment. This will decrease the stress surrounding planning and paying for the daily commute, and it will increase the desire to use it for social activities as well.
Hi, my name is Luke. I work long and awkward hours of the day. I often find myself getting to work over an hour early some days because transit just doesn't run or using another form of transportation. With Open and Go, we can fix reliability by using live tracking of public transit and by collaborating with other forms of transportation in one easy-to-use app. Open and Go would provide alternative routes for times where public transit may not be running, traffic jams, or construction reroutes. A transit system that offers an accurate trip time or an alternative way to get to where you need to be in case something happens will surely please current riders and bring in more.
Awesome. Thank you so much, TriMet team. The floor is now yours. You may screen share your presentation, and you will now have 15 minutes to deliver your pitch. Thank you so much.
All right, so that was a great introduction. Thank you. I feel like I don't even need to say who we are, but just to reiterate, I'm Eleanor and I am joined by Sam and Lucas, and then we've got Marilyn and Belle calling in. So we are presenting our idea for an app, which we are calling Open and Go. And the idea behind the name is that it's one app you can just open and you're good to go. Everything is there that you need. So before we kind of launch into talking about the app, we're going to kind of frame our context a bit and just kind of talk about some of the challenges that we are facing here in Portland and in TriMet. Sorry for the delay. We can't get our PowerPoint to move.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, you can try resharing that one.
There we go. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so instead of tech challenges, we'll be talking about TriMet challenges. But first, we are dealing with just kind of a general lack of interest in public transportation here. A lot of Portlanders tend to regard TriMet as a bit of a last resort. They tend to prefer their personal vehicles or ride shares like Uber and Lyft. And so it's difficult to just get people on the bus and the MAX in the first place. We're also dealing with some safety concerns, just kind of the current Portland environment. I'm sure you've heard stuff. And within this, it's just hard to get people out onto the system. It's hard to get ridership up. We're also dealing with incident reporting and perception of safety on board. It's difficult for riders to actually get assistance when they're on the bus. Currently, to report a safety incident, you have to call the phone number, navigate through a couple different menus, get to a real person, and so it's not convenient or easy at all. And then we're also dealing with reliability issues. We kind of talked about this at the beginning, but the pandemic had an impact on TriMet, and particularly with our operators and employee retention. And so we're still kind of working to recover and get back up to normal service levels that we had prior to the pandemic. But this has led to service delays. It's led to delayed or inaccurate tracking. Things are getting rerouted. We're having to compensate for a lack of operators. So those are some of kind of the external challenges that we're facing. And then when we were talking about this challenge, we decided to focus in on the digital aspect. So currently, we do not have any mobile TriMet branded app. We all tend to use kind of third-party apps that have been created just by people here in Portland. We also tend to use Google Maps or like Uber or Lyft or Nike's Bike Town. We do not have a TriMet specific app that comes from us, the agency. And so that makes it really inconvenient for riders. They have to use several apps to plan, to pay for their trip, to track the vehicles, and to report or rate things. And so it's just really inconvenient and not consistent at all. And then we're also within that just dealing with poor route planning. Most of these third-party apps tend to give about 3 options for the route planning, but there is limited customization and it's not automated at all. And so typically when you go in and you plan your route, you put your start place and your end place, and that's really all you get to customize. The app just kind of spits out a generic route that we kind of talked about a little, include things like long transfers or awkward trips. And so there's no real just cohesive way to plan, do everything in one place, and have it quickly spit something out for you. So our recommendation is one centralized app, which we are calling Open and Go. And this is an easy to use, it's user friendly. It is just one place where riders can pay for their routes, where they can track, where they can plan, they can save their information, and they can report safety issues. So moving forward, we're going to kind of just switch on and off and take turns explaining some of the features and how they help us as riders. So the first and foremost is just ease of use. Open and Go is going to be easy to find in the App Store. It comes from TriMet. So the idea is that if you just search TriMet in the App Store, Open and Go will come up immediately. And so riders will know that it comes from us, that it's official, it's affiliated, and that's where they can find our information. It's also going to be mobile friendly and very simple. We want riders who are younger or older, or maybe who don't speak English as a first language, to all be able to use this app, to have it be something that anyone can use, and that is just easy and simple to use and find. We also would like to just target the younger generation for this app. We've got a lot of college students and young professionals here in Portland. Portland State University and the University of Portland are both downtown here. So we've got a lot of students who go to and from every day and use TriMet to commute. And so our hope is that by having an app that is just easy and intuitive and simple and has everything in one place, we will be encouraging that generation to hop on the bus more often. So within that, one feature that we would like to use are customizable routes. So currently you just type in your destination and your start place, and that's really it. And you can't customize whether you want to integrate, an Uber ride, whether you only want to take the max, how long you want to be on the trip, anything like that. And so our idea is that Open and Go will allow for you to customize and tailor your trip to what works for you, depending on your schedule, your location, your ability, and your ease of access. And then once you have customized these routes, we want to implement a My Route feature so that you can save just your frequent routes, stuff that you take every day. I know for me, this would be pretty helpful. I could save like my work routes and my grocery routes, and they'd all be in one place, and I could just select them. But essentially, customizable routes makes this just a lot more easy and intuitive for riders.
TriMet currently uses a very outdated form of payment. We accept HOP, debit card with no form of how much you pay, and cash. We would like to introduce in the app a one-stop payment where users could pay for their trip ahead of time, tap to transfer, or tap on, tap off, which would introduce tracking, and we could collect data that way. Within the app, we will be using the user's input for data collection anonymously. This would improve route planning and overall service. We could, with the tap on, tap off feature, look at popular routes and see where we need extra buses or whatever the case may be. Also, with data collection, we could use an incident report function where users can input route closures, reroutes, any sort of abnormal thing that a bus would normally encounter. With all of these features, we would be able to use enhanced tracking. We would again ask the user for their input. We have our own GPS system in the buses, as well as the tap on, tap off feature. All of these combined would allow for real-time updates. And currently there's no fast way for users to get updates on traffic delays, accidents, or just any bus outages. So with the app, we could send notifications and streamline that process.
Along with implementing an app like this, we would also want to include some additional features. So implementing extra safety features or additional ones that are either not readily available or are currently being used through third-party apps. So we would want to include the ability for the rider to message our customer safety through the app, whether it's just reporting an incident or to have a real-time conversation with somebody on the other end that works with TriMet to solve that. And then also along with that, we would include a rate your route feature. This would allow the rider, once their commute has been complete, it would give them the opportunity to report any possible incidents, any safety concerns, or any positive instances as well. So with the route rating, it would give the rider an instant opportunity to give feedback, whether it's a positive comment or concerns that they had while commuting. And it would also give TriMet the ability to collect data on route safety and reliability, and also increase performance management and be able to look into those a little bit more closely. We would also want to include accessibility features for people who need a little extra assistance. This would mostly This would be beneficial when planning your route by being able to see what routes add a little extra assistance or the most successful routes for that individual. And it will also give them the ability to request extra accessibility through the app, whether that is to TriMet directly or give them the opportunity to contact TriMet's contracted paratransit TriMet Lyft and be able to implement that into their route planning. And how this aligns with the innovation challenge provided to us, it would provide greater accessibility and affordability to public transit, and it will improve access to all who use it. Open and Go, it will improve safety, enhance efficiency and reliability, and the overall quality of service to our riders. And we would use the data and identification collected to improve riders' experience and be able to find those unseen problems that are there now and be able to solve them and address them.
United Nations goal number 11 talks about sustainable cities and communities. Here in Portland, we have a lot of students, as mentioned, as well as a lot of commuters who rely solely on public transportation. As well as this, we have people who do the half and half, where they commute to our park and rides and then take the transit the rest of the way. So the value of the app is very much there. And
All right, so before we kind of talk about implementation, we've got just kind of a brief SWOT analysis that we've done. So we'll talk about some strengths and weaknesses. First of all, a strength is that all of this can happen in one app, just one place. And so having riders being able to rate their routes, to pay for them, to check on them, just makes everything so much easier and more convenient, which encourages people to take transit more often. That also just makes it more user-friendly. Our goal is to have a very just clear interface that anyone can understand, that is very intuitive and just simple for use. And then also this is free. So we've kind of talked about how we serve just a very wide demographic. We have a lot of students, a lot of low-income riders. And so being able to offer something that is free helps to encourage ridership. However, we also have some weaknesses. Unfortunately, the driver shortage continues, and that's not necessarily something that we can just solve, in a couple hours. So we will still be working around things like route changes or shortages or service cuts. Same thing with kind of this new app. We will be working with third-party apps to integrate services like Uber and Lyft. And we have to make sure that they can then talk to our app as well as our payment app. And so getting those different apps to talk and work together may be a bit of a challenge. But we also have some opportunities. So one is that TriMet is really the primary public transportation provider here in Portland. So if you don't know, we cover about 3 counties. And so TriMet serves both Portland as well as several of our suburbs. And so everyone here who is taking public transportation is taking TriMet. And so that helps to contribute to our city's kind of sustainable and carless culture. And so we feel that people will be, on board with the new app that makes the riding easier and more efficient. Also, that third-party integration helps to include what people are already using. So people are already using Uber, Lyft, the Lime scooters, Nike's Bike Town. This just provides a way for them to use that and makes it all easier. We will have some challenges, one being the name recognition. Currently, the app idea is to go ahead with Open and Go, but it also comes from TriMet. So people might be confused about why the app isn't called TriMet, which could in turn impact user adoption and just kind of create some confusion around the naming. But I'll hand it over to Sam to talk about implementation.
Thank you. So for our next steps, we would want to widen the net. We would want to introduce this to our marketing team, our creative services team, as well as our IT department. Our marketing and creative services team, they could work together to create a public forum for writer feedback and give the public the opportunity to share opinions and give us information on what they would like to see included in this new app. IT obviously could help us prevent bugs and work through any possible software issues. At the end of the day, TriMet, we serve the public, and so we want to make sure that they have a voice. So next steps would just be working with them.
All right, we'll hand it over to you now for questions.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and reset the timer, and we're entering into the judges Q&A portion. So Leslie, if you would take it away for the judges.
Thank you, Trey, and this really is the home stretch. Thank you to the TriMet team, really wonderful presentations, and greetings from San Francisco, where I'm located. I've visited Portland several times and have a basic familiarity with the system, the streetcar operations there, et cetera. So great presentation. I am serving as the chair of the judges panel, and joining me are three distinguished panelists from all around the country. I'll turn to our first questioner, and she is Greer Johnson Gillis from the Jacksonville Transportation Authority in Florida. She serves as the senior vice president there and the chief infrastructure and development officer. And I know you're just ready with questions, Greer.
I am, Leslie. I have several, but due to time, I'm only going to ask one. Good afternoon, TriMet. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation and sharing your challenges with us. I also appreciated your innovative approach to resolving your challenges. My question is with regards to your deployment as well as your service planning. So you shared at the end your next steps, meeting with your marketing, thinking about branding. That's good, getting with your IT since this is app-based. But tell me, how are you engaging your service planning team? And is there an opportunity here as you lay this out? Service planning could make some adjustments to the services, some of the routes that would align with the rollout of this app.
So one of kind of the fun parts of this project for us was we got to partner with a member of our TOD team, so our transit oriented development. And they are the team that works to plan all of our routes and all of our operations and where things are located, which we had never worked with before. So that was great. But one thing that they kind of were interested in working on with us was that when our development and planning teams are working on route planning, they don't often take into account the younger generation. I think we do a good job of working on like the low income riders and figuring out kind of places that work for them. Same thing with more of our kind of high traffic like transit corridors. But we don't often talk to the younger generation, kind of that like student demographic, the young professionals. And so one thing that we would like to work on is just determining where those riders are going to and from and how we can integrate that into the app. And so part of the reason we wanted to include that like data collection and tap on, tap off was just to get that information. We've got so many students who are using their student ID to ride. I went to Portland State, so when I was taking the MAX to and from classes, I just had my student ID and I didn't have to actually scan on or anything. And so we're missing out on all of the data from those riders because they're not actually tapping on with their TriMet cards. And so we would like to be able to implement that data and just use it to figure out where those students are coming and going. We know where the schools are located, but we don't know where they go after or where they're coming from. And so the idea is that we'd like to use that data tracking to figure out where those students are going, where the younger generations are, and how can we then use that destination and route data to figure out, you know, what would best serve them, where can we meet them in the middle.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. We'll next turn to a judge who was a chief information officer in her prior life before her current position. And that's Alicia Kane, who's with Cubic Transportation Systems. And there she is the head of UMO Solutions and Market Development. Go for it, Alicia.
Good afternoon, and thank you for your presentation. It was a wonderful summarization of the gaps you're seeing with your existing transit app. And And I like the approach of trying to be more inclusive of the younger generation moving forward with creating opportunities to improve systems like this. From one area that you spoke to, as far as your SWOC is concerned, was I want to understand what kind of work you've done to understand the real costs of trying to implement something like this. And in one area, it said the app is free, but there are costs associated with building out apps. Now, are you saying that the app is free to the public? Is that the free, or is that, can you explain? Because I'm looking for your plan moving forward and what costs might be or resources might be needed besides the creative teams in IT. What I'm looking for a broader scope of what you're thinking as far as how this will impact TriMet from a resource and cost perspective.
And that's a great question, one that we didn't fully address in our presentation. So part of well, let's define the free. The free is when you go into the App Store and you want to download it, there's no cost associated. It's not pay 99 cents or anything. That's the free we're talking about.
Okay.
We do recognize that there will be a cost for implementing something such as this. For that, we would need to get with our financial team and kind of really get a grasp on what that would look like. While we can't give you numbers or anything such as that, our hope is that with the increased ridership that we would see with the utilization of the app and the ease of use, that would kind of balance the additional cost of implementing this, if that makes sense. So at the end of the day, it would almost be a wash is our hope. Obviously, there is a implementation cost and creating and all of the things, and that would be something that we would need to work on internally. And unfortunately, we don't have that background.
So I have experience. I know TriMet's background with internal development. Mm-hmm. And so is this something you're thinking internally it would be developed versus going out for bid on something?
So typically we've got an IT team that works, you probably might know more than we do, but they tend to work on kind of maintaining the current like software and offerings. Typically in the past, I think when we have rolled out new systems, we tend to contract. So anything that involves, UX design, kind of the current transit trackers that we offer, all of that public facing stuff, when it's created, we contract out to different services who do that for us. And they partner with our creative team, but we are not actually creating anything ourselves. So there would be kind of the additional cost of initially creating that and, getting bids from different design firms. And then once those are, created and implemented, then it would be back kind of on us to actually maintain and work with it once it's started up.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll next receive a question from our third judge, and she is Julia Gessner of TransDev US. And there, Julia serves as the Director of Administration. Questions, Julia?
So thank you all for this presentation. I think that this is one of those things that when we all try to, get friends and family members on transit, we start to realize that you shouldn't have to learn how to ride a system, but you essentially do, because we don't have simplistic solutions like what you all have described in place in a lot of our agencies. Did you all look at other cities? So my original question was, were you looking at this being a white labeled third-party application? So what you just described in answering the last question, you are. But my question would be with that, have you looked at other cities as examples of success in this type of area? Honestly, I'm specifically thinking of DART in Dallas has one of the the most innovative apps that encompasses almost all of the areas that you all have talked about?
So I can't speak to how it relates to ARP as much, but one of the systems that I have found the most easy is in London, the tube system. And it's easy because there are so many options. And it's such a integrated system that is just in place and established. And I visited there, I think last summer, and it was just very easy to plan out where I was. And part of that kind of turns back to the whole operator shortage and just service issues that we kind of are dealing with. To some extent, that is just an issue that we'll have to deal with. But their app was very specific about where are you, and this is what is available and when, and this is when it will be here, and this is how you need to get to the stop. And it had just very clear, explicit directions. And it made it just so much more convenient, especially when I was in, a foreign city where I didn't know my way around. And that would be helpful not only for our, just regular commuters, but for visitors too. We're kind of right now in the peak of like tourist season here in Portland. And so I see a lot of tourists just on transit when I go out kind of in my day-to-day commuting. But I guess to answer your question, we liked the app that was very specific and explicit, and they just kind of held your hand through it. Like you said before, you kind of have to learn the city. And the idea is that Open and Go can really just help you do that.
Thank you. Our next judge to present a question is Andrew Brennan, who is a vice president with the firm of HNTB, and there he's engaged in their national transit and rail practice. Andrew?
Thanks, Leslie. Really interesting, fascinating way to sort of frame this. I think, you talk about putting a lot of things in an app, which are generally done in most places. What I liked was that you're really focused on it's in one place, going to one place and servicing everything. I'm particularly interested in this incident response piece because, I think all the things you talked about for transit, people do in lots of different places. I've seen cities do this, incident response. I've never seen a transit agency do it where I can say, on my phone, there's graffiti at this location. There's, it's unsafe here. Lights are out in this state, whatever. How would you sort of think about how that would connect to your engineering and maintenance staff or your operations control system? Like, how would that piece sort of work? It would go to them. It would go to that information would go to a customer service. But how would it, if I put in an incident, like there was offensive graffiti in the station, what would happen?
And that's a great question. So currently, kind of what we were thinking is you would submit an issue and say you were speaking. Let's touch on the graffiti portion. Say you were riding transit, you saw graffiti, you wanted to put in an incident report. So that would be sent to TriMet, the department who handles that. Maintenance, facilities. So that would be internally, we look at that as a facilities ticket. Okay. And so that would go from the app into our facilities ticket team, and then that would disperse into the facilities department. And so we have in place internally opportunities for us as employees to submit IT tickets, facilities tickets, those sorts of things. And so we have the means to do it for ourselves. So it'd be expanding that to the public. So kind of what I'm picturing is there's like a drop-down menu of your concern, whether it's a safety concern, a graffiti, health concern, any kind of thing like that, or if there's something broken on one of the buses or the trains, and then it would be filtered through and go to the appropriate maintenance team. And then within TriMet, there's already an existing kind of tree, sort of like how can I say this? There's already a system in place to get it to the right person.
Got it. So you would just be taking that system that you have and opening it up to public input, public.
Yes.
incidences.
Yes, it sort of shifts the bulk of the work in that currently riders have to like call one phone number. We've got one number for safety issues, for maintenance issues, for things being broken. There's no specificity, which is where it gets awkward. Riders have to like click through all of these phone menus and click, one for this issue, two for this. And it's clunky. And if there's an emergency, it's not efficient or useful at all. And so the idea is that it becomes easy to report your issue. You just, select it or type it in. And all of that actual selection and kind of, designation of departments happens on our end. So kind of trying to take that load off of the rider and just make it, more instantaneous and quick for them.
Thank you. One final wrap-up question from me, and could you just elaborate on your interactions in the development of this initiative with TriMet's IT department? Are they receptive to it? Obviously, there's a resource aspect associated with the implementation, as the other judges have mentioned, but can we anticipate pushback, or will this be a slow incremental process, or what's your notion?
Our IT department is very communicative, and I don't feel as though we'd necessarily get pushback. I feel like they would ask us the questions or ask the questions that haven't been thought of yet and help put things into perspective and help get things moving. So they are always looking for opportunities for improvement, and it would be a huge improvement. And so I'm not expecting pushback. I'm expecting questions and the opportunity for all departments within TriMet to work together to create a solution and roll this out in the most effective and efficient way possible.
Thank you. As we've done with every other team, we will afford you 2.5 to 3 minutes for concluding remarks. Take it away.
I can do it. Yeah, all right. Well, now we can stare at ourselves here. Yeah, I guess we just want to thank you for giving this opportunity. None of us before had heard of this challenge. I think it sounds like it's still pretty new, but for us, this was really a good chance to just work together, get to know each other, and to really just work on finding a way to include that younger generation. Like we've kind of talked about before, the sort of sense among younger riders is that transportation and public transportation is your last resort. We've got more and more of those college students, of the young professionals, young workers who are relying on things like Uber or their personal vehicles or the scooters. And while those are all, valid options, they're not the most cost effective. They're not the most environmentally friendly. And they are also just contributing to the traffic that we all experience here. And it adds up to that just city clogged traffic. And so we would like to just have something that not only includes those younger riders, but also helps just the environment. And it helps to get that off of the street and really just focus on transportation. We think also just that we currently have enough resources to provide for all of these riders. It's just that they're not on board. They're in their cars instead of on the bus. And so if we can get people onto the bus by using something that is nice and easy and convenient, we'll really just add to that ridership and keep us going for the next, 50, 60, 70 years. But just wanted to thank you again for offering the challenge, and thank you for taking the time on a Sunday to talk to us. We all appreciate it. But yeah, thank you. We'll hand it over to you.
Great. Well, thank you. And similarly, on behalf of my colleagues on the judging panel, we thank you for sharing your Sunday afternoon with us. So with that, we'll turn it back to Dr. Scott to close us out.
Thank you very much. I just am going to add my deepest appreciation to you. It's really been a wonderful presentation today, and you're thinking on this. And this is a major milestone, but we've still got one more to go with critical conversations. And so we'll be reaching out to you for that as well. And again, thank you, thank you, thank you. You really identified something in terms of the one stop and all that that just makes a lot of sense. So thank you. And Angela, TriMet, TriMet, and please tell your CEO and everyone, thank you for us. And with that, you're closing out the actual competition. Okay. Now
This is the end. Thank you so much. Wonderful presentation. It's been wonderful sitting with everybody throughout this process.